Hello and welcome to my channel. I hope you are all okay. Now what I plan to do is to take you further along my Christian journey and talk about my move from Clapton Church to Ilford Church. Why did I move from one church to another? It's because I really felt the need to come out of my own shell. At Clapton, I felt as if I was a quiet musician. I was always in the same corner and not doing much. But when I went to Ilford Church, eventually I started to be more brave and confident in myself. When I first went to Ilford Church, they were still worshipping at Vine Church Hall. And I believe it was in 2013 when I first attended Ilford Church. And I did feel very welcomed in that church as well. Every time when you come through the door and you look to your left, you used to see Deacon Colin and Mother Jean at the table with programs of the church services. And it was shortly after I went forward for an altar call. I remember it was Calai who introduced me to the musicians at Ilford. The late Earl Allen, who played the keyboard, and Leonardo, who played the drums at Ilford Church. It was an amazing group of people that I played with during my time there. And then eventually I joined the musicians. And I think the very first time that I played for Ilford Church was the worship night service of 2013. And shortly after going into 2014, there was a challenge for me because later on, the two other drummers that were there at the time, it came to a point where they left. I think Leonardo went on to Barbados, and I asked him, are you going on holiday? And he said, no, I'm going there for good. And that really got to me because I had to learn how to adapt, of course. When it came to learning how to pack away the equipment and learning how they go into the storage cupboard, I had to learn quickly. And yeah, when I used to work on Sunday, I used to call Leonardo and let him know where I would be and ask him to cover for me. And then when it was my own self-playing for Ilford, there were sacrifices that I had to make. Especially when it came to National Youth Convention. I usually sang in the choir, but since I couldn't find anyone else, I stayed at Ilford Church to help around with the musicians. And I guess one other challenge was learning songs that I didn't hear from Clapton Church. And that's when I knew that not every UT branch is the same. Some churches sing more new songs. Other churches sing a mixture of old and new songs. So yeah, that was another challenge for me to adapt to. When it came to setting up equipment and packing them away, there are two people I would like to shout out to, Tafari and Joel. most of the time they would arrive earlier than me on Sunday morning, and most of the time most of the equipment would be set up already, and I just thank them for their help and their support. And even when it came to after services, when they would bring the cases in for the drums, I really thank them for their support. So coming to church early during the time when other people were at Sunday school, it was a time to set up the equipment. And after church, we took our time to help around and to pack away. And I'm really thankful to God, because eventually we were able to have our own church building. And yeah, moving from Vine Church Hall to Yetley Hall was one of my main highlights during the time at Ilford Church. And even before we moved in, there was an occasion where I helped around with clearing up and decorating the church hall. And I'm really thankful for setting time aside to help around. It was a huge difference when we moved in, because of course there was no need for packing away equipment. So the only reason why I would come early for church is to join in with the adults for Sunday school. For anyone who intends to come out of their shell, you will know that it takes a lot of bravery and confidence. So I'm thankful for Ilford Church helping me in that process. And because I was able to come out of my shell, I found myself more involved in different ministries. Whenever Sister Blossom came over to me to ask me if I was able to lead prayer meeting, I hardly said no. And most of the time when I attended prayer meeting, I found myself to be the youngest person there. And even though I was the youngest there, it didn't really stop me from attending. So I am thankful for the occasions where I was asked to lead prayer meeting. I'm thankful for the occasion where in the men's meeting on Monday evenings, the occasion where I was able to raise a subject, and I remembered that subject was unity and how important unity is in church, being part of the youth board and also supporting the youth leader at the time, Dolores Harris. There was even an occasion where Dolores asked me to lead a session for the young men in our church. And even though it was only one session, because not many were interested, I found that one and only session to be very beneficial, because it was a chance for myself and the other young men to be open and honest. So I did manage as much as I could to be involved in various ministries. So during my time there at Ilford Church, I'm glad that I didn't only see myself as a musician, and I'm glad that other people around me didn't only see me as a musician. I would also be diverse, and I'm glad that I did put myself out there And even when it came to being asked to do an exhortation or being asked to preach, I'm glad I didn't back down from those opportunities. And I'm really thankful to God for preparing me for these opportunities, because He did tell me when I moved from Clapton to another church, He was telling me, don't be surprised when you are called to do more stuff than you did at Clapton. And yeah, because of my obedience to what God said to me, I felt fully prepared. And I can remember one particular occasion where I volunteered to do a solo. And yes, it took a lot of confidence to do that, and even to sing a cappella as well. And looking back now, I felt very surprised that I was able to do a solo. I remember one of the songs was an old song, Wonderful Words of Life. And there was another occasion where I was able to do another solo, and that was during one evening service when I was moderating. It was another old song called Sweet Hour of Prayer. And I'm really thankful for the confidence behind what I was able to do. And looking back now, I feel surprised. I ask myself, how did I do that? How was I able to do that? It's only God. There was another example of coming out of my own shell, where the leader of the worship team, she was asking each member to provide an exhortation. And when it came to my turn, I was given the topic and I was given time to prepare notes to speak on that particular topic. And I remember that topic was the importance of true worship. So I took my time to write down as much as I was fed by God, and it was very powerful. I was able to differentiate what is true worship and what is false worship. And that was a very deep topic. And what I found was, the more time you spend with God, the more deeper the context and the content of the topic is. So I'm very thankful for Sister Donna, who gave me that opportunity to speak about that particular topic. I spent roughly over 4 years at Ilford Church, and before I end this video, I want to share a short list of memories that were precious to me when I was there. Being part of the musicians, even though it was mainly 3 of us, I still enjoyed my time being part of the musicians. I gave as much as I could. As I said, there was a long period of time when I was the only drummer there, but there were some good teammates that I was able to play with. The late Earl Allen on the keyboard, Ben Kofi on the bass, myself on the drums, and then much later Jermaine Walker and his brother Marlon Walker. I can't forget the times when we used to meet up on Tuesday afternoons around 3 o'clock when we used to go through the songs for Sunday. We took our time to go through each song for all of us to be confident in the keys and the beats and everything else. FTH, Family Training Hour. And when I went to Ilford, I was slightly surprised because not many UT branches have FTH anymore. But Ilford was one of the very few. And yeah, FTH is one of those examples where they give opportunities for individuals to come out of their own shell. And even for me, FTH was very beneficial. And it took me to where I was able to be involved in prayer meetings and provide exhortations and later on preach. So I'm thankful for the occasions where we had FTH. And of course, moving into Netley Hall, I believe it was in 2015, our own building. And when it came to the dedication service later on in that year, I invited my mum and my brother to come and see the new building. And it was a very good service. Bishop Donald Bolt, who was our administrative bishop at the time, he was there. And our district pastor at the time, Bishop MacLeod, he was also there. And many others from other churches, even those who used to attend Ilford Church or have some kind of connection with Ilford Church. The whole hall was packed. I can remember the church outings we used to go on. I can remember a couple. There was one occasion when we went to a restaurant in Essex called Izumi Restaurant. I believe it was a Chinese cuisine. It was a good time there. And another occasion where I went along with the Ilford men down to Hastings, and although the weather at the time was very poor, a lot of rain, I still had a good time with the men. There was a men's social that we had at Deacon Collins' house. I remember we went there for a barbecue, we played dominoes, and there was football going on TV. We were just being men. It was an enjoyable time. And remembering the district events at Lee Church, I remember the district youth conventions and district convocations, and of course the district men's health awareness workshops as well. There was one time when the speaker arrived very late, and I'm sure that was very embarrassing for him. But one moment I remember was, whilst we were waiting for that speaker to come, Bishop MacLeod stepped in, and he was able to take on the topic about health and awareness for men. And it was very random because he didn't intend to do it, of course, but he stepped in, and that was amazing. And even though I was the youngest at the district men's health awareness sessions, I still found it very beneficial because it was a way for me to plan ahead for later in life as I grow older. So I really did give my best to Ilford Church during my time there. I put a lot of effort into being part of the ministries that I was involved in. And then I decided to leave because, to be honest, I wanted to be more practical in my service to God. And that's where my YouTube channel came along. I started 5 years ago in August 2019, and I'm glad that I started in 2019 because a year later, of course, was the pandemic. And even during the pandemic, I was able to be practical with the amount of time I had on my hands, a lot of free time. I was able to deliver quite a lot of topics during those 2 years. And to this day, I'm still providing content on my channel, and I hope and pray that you find the content beneficial. I'm able to be open and honest, and to be very deep in God's word, and be serious about holiness. So my departure from Ilford Church was seen as another step in my Christian walk with God, in being more practical. Because I can tell you from now, there were times when, even though I was involved in a lot of ministries, I felt as if I wasn't very practical beyond the four walls of the church. And with my YouTube channel, I was able to be more practical in delivering God's word. For me, I used to feel very distant because time after time when I used to attend conventions, when I was going back to my local church, I felt the same. I didn't really find myself involved in spreading the gospel outside church. And even when it came to like New Year's resolutions, I was like, yes Lord, this will be the year that I would serve you more. But it was like year after year, I found myself to be doing the same thing and being in my shell. But, you know, the time had to come for me to be brave and be practical. And I'm glad that moment has come to fruition. And yes, I may stutter or stammer from time to time. I may find myself talking very fast, but the most important thing is that I'm available for God to use me. In spite of how I see myself or how other people see me, God can still use me. Nothing stands in God's way. And it's very powerful that He can use anyone. I know the main reason why I chose to attend Ilford Church was because of the close connections between Clapton and Ilford Church. The relatives, between other people, and how small the world is. For example, Deacon Colin and my parents used to sing in the New Tea Gospel Choir. And there were a few people who used to attend East Ham Church. That was my dad's church, that used to be on the Clapton District. And the few people being the late Mother Thomas and Sister James and the late Brother James. And I think the late Deacon Milton used to be part of that group. He used to attend East Ham Church as well. Yeah, there were so many connections. One of the connections that surprised me was a relation. Kalai, who used to attend Ilford Church, was related to a former church mother from Clapton Church, who is passed on. Sister Griffiths. That was surprising to me. Kalai was her great nephew. When I found that out, I was very shocked. So now that the Ilford Church has transferred from the Lee District to the Clapton District, I'm wondering how the Ilford Brethren have settled in to the new district. I felt proud about Ilford Church joining the Clapton District, of course, because Clapton is my foundation, and I've been able to see a couple of district events since Ilford Church joined the district. I was able to see the district youth conventions on live stream, and just seeing members of the Ilford Church at Clapton Church, it made me feel very proud for both churches that had a huge impact on my life and my Christian journey to be together under one district. It's just very amazing to me. And even to see Simone Thompson as the district youth director for Clapton District, I'm amazed from knowing her during my time at Ilford Church. And of course you have your senior pastor, Bishop Eustace Constance, who was a former Clapton member. Both Bishop Eustace and Sharon Constance have always been part of the Clapton District for a long period of time, even during their time at Mile End, Aquinas Ministries now. There has always been that close connection. There was so much more than I can even count, and the more that I count is the more amazed I am of how close both churches are and how close they were before. So as I close, I thank you for listening to me. Thank you for watching my video, and God bless you.